Okay, here we go. Today we are going to be doing some more gardening while landscaping. Landscaping is probably a better term, and essentially what we've got to do is get everything level. I've also got to do some more chainsawing. There have been a few days where I haven't filmed because it's a little difficult, especially with the weather. When it's raining, I've got like an umbrella, but I don't have a total wet weather, what are they called? I want to say a wet weather sock. It's not a sock. It's like a jacket. Raincoat. A raincoat. How are we doing? We're good? We're good? Yeah, we're good. Okay. Feels like I should have done something else. In this video, we are going to expand our cleaning up of the front yard, and we're probably going to need some help, but that comes a little later. First thing, let's take a look at some of our tools. There is some discussion on how you pronounce this, but mattock or mattock, I'm going to say mattock, it is very similar to a pickaxe. It has a long handle and a stout head, which combines either a vertical axe blade or a horizontal adze. So I just started bashing away at that ground. There is so much to get through here. There is the top layer of soil. It's not actually topsoil, but it's kind of soft. So on top of all of the soil is white rocks. Small little white rocks. So you have to dig through those rocks and get to the soil underneath, and it's actually very difficult to do. So I thought, why not bring out the water blaster? Because I've watched YouTube videos and people just like water blast a hole into the ground. I think, well, I can do that. It's going to be a bit loud. Now, it looks like I'm doing a lot, but in fact, what is happening is I'm getting really dirty. And the water is just pooling, so it's hard to see what's underneath. So I did a fair amount of water blasting. I tried to water blast and then shovel and then water blast and shovel to try and get the water to keep away from where I was water blasting, and it didn't really work. All that I achieved was I just got really dirty. And my poor boots. The boots that I'm wearing here are actually they're just leather boots, right? And they got absolutely trashed. They were soaking wet. They were wet the whole way through, and it took days to dry. I couldn't wear them for at least a week. Blue steel. And all of a sudden, we're in a new day. Oh. There were actually a couple of days between the stuff you've just seen and the stuff you're about to see. In that time, I did a bit of cleanup. I got rid of some of the rocks. It was tough, but I couldn't film most of it because it was raining. First task, get this stuff fired away. Safety glasses. But the next challenge, there were two real big issues. I'll tell you about one of them now. This issue was the black polythene, the black weed mat that's underneath the soil. I've told you this before, it's covered that entire front yard, but it is so difficult to remove. You're trying to push your shovel into the ground, and it can only go that much before it hits the weed mat, and then you can't dig underneath it, and all of the roots are meshed into it, so you can't even pull it up. It took a long time, and the Matic was quite good at cutting through it because I could just flip it around and then cut it down, but I still struggled. Oh, and the second thing were the rocks, but we'll cover that later. In this part, I'm actually trying to get out one of the root systems, and it's not the roots from the big tree that I cut down. There was a tree there before, a big bushy tree that I cut, and we're going back months. I'm just trying to take the root system out, and it's huge. It's like it's spread out. We've dug up half of the roots, and it's taken 2 hours. I've been swinging both the mattock, if that's how you pronounce it, and the log splitting hammer quite a few times and haven't had, aches and pains. I mean, a little. And watch me do a few blows. See if I can get a root out, because that's really all this is, derooting. Still got more of the, well, to be perfectly honest, I actually don't know how much more. You might not be able to tell, but I'm actually taking quite a few breaks. It wasn't overly hot, but it becomes hot work when you're constantly throwing down a axe. The large one weighed, I want to say 8 pounds, but that's probably about 4 kg, and 4 kg is not that much. It definitely felt like more than 4 kg, but maybe it could have been 4 kg. So now I'm really exposing the root system. This bit is the bottom part of a piece at the very back. This part is the corner, and I've dug around it. You can see in the footage there's a whole variety of stones there. This is why gloves are so important, because my hands would have just got ruined. And if you really hurt your hands, like if you get a lot of blisters, it just means that when you then go and pick up those tools the next day, it's so much harder. I mean, the pain's one thing, but it's the fact that you then have to do the same amount of damage to your hands. So I always try to wear gloves to increase the chance of me being able to go out there consecutive days. After this point, I'd kind of given up, and I kind of thought I'd never get it out. I came back the following day and I actually got it out, and I was a bit surprised, and I wasn't filming because I didn't think I'd get it out. We got to this point, and I say we, my partner, her mum, we decided that the best way to go would be to get some help. At this point, I'd spent about 2 weeks trying to clear the front yard, and it's hard to see on camera, but there is so much more to go. So much. There's rocks underneath a lot of the stuff along the back wall, and where all the dirt is it looks like it's just dirt, but there's actually tons of roots all the way through, plus all of that weed mat, which I just couldn't get it out, no matter how hard I tried. So what option did we have? Well, what else do you do when you can't dig out rocks? I hired a digger. I need the key. Shit. When the gentleman came along and dropped off the digger, he handed me the keys and left. I was kind of hoping he could show me how to use it, but I never really said that I didn't, and I was dressed up in, work clothes, so maybe I can only go in on this side. He probably thought I knew what I was doing, but I've never operated a digger before in my life. So I had to teach myself. Lock levers before seat. What do we got here? Unlock. Here I couldn't turn the digger on. I got the ignition to activate the hydraulics, but I couldn't get the engine to run. Then I figured out that on either side of the digger there are locks, and if the locks are down, you can't engage the engine. The engine won't start, so you have to pull the locks up. And then the bucket basically has articulations. Have to work out how to take the brake off. And then the engine won't move forward or back until you put the locks down. They're basically just little arms, little levers. The whole thing's just levers. And it was basically just practice. The more I did it, the better I got. And I'll be perfectly honest, it was a lot of fun. There were a lot of times where I had to get out of the digger to clear something, partly because it's hard to see what you're doing, and sometimes if you, like a lot of the rocks, I couldn't figure out how to pick the rocks up, and so I'd have to get out and move the rocks, or if it was like a bit of root system, I'd have to get in there and move it. The one thing that sometimes happens is that you pick up something and you raise it, and as you're raising it, the whole thing feels like it's tipping forward. You've kind of got to be a little bit more aware of where the balance of the digger is, because it can fall over really easy. It's got a lot of weight to it. The whole back part of the digger, I'm guessing, is concrete or some heavy metal, because it would need something to hold the weight back as it's like picking something up. And there were a few times where I would get the digger in like a rock and trying to lift the rock up, but instead of pulling the rock up, the whole digger would go forward. And it would be a little bit frightening because you weren't expecting it. And also turning the digger around, you always have to look behind you, and not just behind you, but below you, and then the next direction you look is where your boom is, where the digger arm is. So you don't, because you're looking this way, which means you're not looking where the arm is, and swing around and break something. And that's kind of how I broke the fence. Well, that's one successful day of digging. Thanks, dog. Thanks for the chair. My bum's wet, so wet. The seat, it's got a lot of wetness in it. Anyway, till tomorrow. Hoo-wee! I got to ride on the digger. The digger was actually really cool to operate. It took a while, but once I got the hang of it, man, I don't want to say I was in the zone, because I wasn't in the zone. I was doing really well. I was enjoying it, and I really felt like I could get so much better. Not to say that I was bad, but I just enjoyed it. I was actually quite surprised. I don't feel I was the smoothest operator. I hit the fence and I hit the brick wall. So I hit the fence and I actually popped or broke one of the poles, one of the fence posts. and with the brick wall, I swung round and bashed into the back and cracked a bit of the stone. So, you know, like, it wasn't perfect. I also hit the tree. But we are not going to stop there. Well, sorry, we are going to stop there because we've run out of time for this episode. But catch me next episode, because I'm going to get back on the digger and do some of this. Well, thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, like the video, why not? And subscribe, because I always enjoy my numbers going up. I was going to say something else then, but I chose not to. Anyway, have a wonderful week, and we will catch you next week.